Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and we recently talked about Iran's economy. The Rial was not looking good. It still isn't looking good. We've gone over it before, the fact that a lot of people say, well, they don't have this globally controlled central bank, but they still have a central bank. And that is a major point to be made in this report, is considering the fact that everyone seems to think that Iran is so much better because their central bank isn't part of that global complex that we know so much about. It doesn't mean that it's not overly centralized. The major problem that we see in the global economy is centralization, most of all. Of course, it's a little bit better that they're not connected to all these other central banks, at least as far as we know, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still centralized. But anyway, a big story that's been coming up in the news recently is that Iran officially switches from dollar to euro. And as the article says here on Zero Hedge, just 2 weeks after panic hit the streets of Tehran as the Iranian government attempted to fix the free fall of the rial against the US dollar, Middle East Monitor reports that Iran's feud with the US is set to get worse after Tehran announced this week that it will start reporting foreign currency amounts in euros rather than US dollars as part of the country's efforts to reduce its reliance on the American currency due to political tensions with Washington. Central Bank Governor Valiola Seif said last week that Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had welcomed his suggestion of replacing the dollar with the euro in foreign trade, as the dollar has no place in our transactions today. Iran does hardly any trade with the US due to decades of economic sanctions. Its most important trading partner is the UAE, which accounts for around 24% of all Iranian imports and exports. China is not far behind with 22%, followed by Turkey, India, and the EU, all of which account for around 6% of Iran's trade. Iran's leaders have been threatening for some time to ditch the dollar for a different currency. Now, just going into this a bit, John, I think it's important to mention that, one way or another, the US dollar, a lot of countries are swapping out of the US dollar. We've been talking about that for a long time. And also, this might be a sign of democracy, quote unquote, being rained down in Iran in the near years, especially with them being made out to be the boogeyman by all the world governments. And on top of that, the attempt to destabilize Iran going back to most notably since the 1950s with the Iranian coup. And on top of that, it doesn't matter though, because the euro, it's still going to a fiat system, a globalist controlled fiat system that is absolutely crazy to depend on in any shape or form. All fiat currencies eventually revert to their true value of zero. And this is only going to continue to get worse, John. What do you think about this recent swap?
Well, it just means really nothing other than everybody's moving away from the US dollar as world reserve currency. Now, I don't know if I want to have euros to begin with at all. It's another garbage currency, of course. And if you look at the euro versus the Iranian Rial, it's pretty much the same as versus the US dollar. So it's no big difference. It's not why they're switching because of the exchange rates. It's because they're switching because they want to get out of the US dollar hegemon, because what the US dollar can do easily, with them being needed to use for all transactions and so on and use dollars, well, they could put heavy sanctions on them and stop them, make it really hard for them to have an economy that will run on anything.
Which they've already been doing for a long time. Of course, the US has put countless sanctions on Iran and has made it very difficult. We've seen Iran revert back to old Islamic scripture following years of, growth in, individuals not aggressing against each other, individuals being more free, women being able to work, wear short skirts, drive. And then now we've seen over the past 60-something years after the Iranian coup and what happened in the late 60s, and then the Iraq-Iran war, which was funded by the US through these proxy wars, and this continued attempt with sanctions. We've seen a lot of attacks on Iran. Now, Iran, that doesn't mean that Iran is a good country but in any shape or form, but it does say a lot about how the US global complex with Britain, Israel, and all these other countries have attempted for so long to suppress any nations that are not in line with the global establishment. establishment. Now, they still are heavily centralized, like we said, and there are a lot of problems there. I think the major issue that Iran needs to watch out for is if they have a lot of gold reserves, because we know what happened to Libya and Iraq and Afghan. As you can go into so many different countries, you can see what's happening right now in Syria. So I think it's really important to make that as clear as possible, because going down the line, we might be looking back at this video in as many as 5 years, as much as 1 year time, looking back and going, oh, well, they did have a lot of gold. Oh, well, the U.S. did force them to be the boogeyman through the media, scaring everyone about them, and caused a huge conflict like the U.S. is so good at. John?
Well, the gold that Iran has, it's kind of elusive. There's no real numbers out there because, of course, Iran want to hide what they actually have. And
for good reason.
Yeah, for good reason. Because, of course, with Libya happened, there's no gold that is in Libyans' hands anymore.
Or the sarin gas that Clinton actually took from Libya and handed to Syrian rebels. Oh, yeah, we forgot about that. That was covered up in the news a while ago.
Yeah, it's all about geopolitics. It's all about trying to take over resources. They want Iran, of course, to... They want to take over their oil. They're a big oil country as well. Now, of course, Iran, have been putting on, like, what has not gotten attention is, of course, all the women, like, ripping off their hijabs in Iran. And, of course, where's those feminists when you really need them? No, they're over here wanting to have communist societies, of course.
Yeah, those are the real feminists over there that actually have vast oppression to the point where...
That takes a lot of guts and not like these crazy snowflakes that are running around here, little commies.
Yeah, that want actual privilege over actual, equality by opportunity rather than equality by force.
Yeah, no, but back to the Iranian economy again. Again, it's running a fiat currency system. It's going to struggle no matter what. And of course, we said in the last video that it dropped about 79% of value over just the last 5 years of the Rial. That's a huge, tremendous drop. That's like you suddenly waking up the next day and you thought you had $100. Well, now we only have $30 worth of buying power after that. So it's just substantial for all the population, and who knows, because it could take a lot. The population could suddenly just say that we don't trust the Iranian Rial, and then it's game over for the currency. So it's very like on a thin edge no matter what you try to do. And then of course you have now probably CIA and others just like drooling, trying to push further to get people rallied up, of course, in Iran to topple the government.
Yeah, create conflict. It's the whole idea of the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, and repeat. So I guess the bottom line would just be that, hey, the euro is fiat. Fiat is bad. All fiat currencies crash, and it's up to individuals to sustain themselves and be financially responsible. And you're not going to get that from going from the US dollar to the euro to any of the fiat currencies.
No, the euro is worse than the US dollar because it's a massive currency. It's created like a kind of a mini world currency. So it's just a stupid currency. It's a worse version of the US dollar.
Yeah, and it really is basically the same thing as the US dollar. So this is all just facade in order to kind of press some vinegar into the wounds of the United States, as so many other countries swap out too. We've seen that with Saudi Arabia in a lot of cases as well, and a lot of different countries around the world. So bottom line is, fiat is bad, decentralization is good. Decentralize everything, folks. Thanks for going into this with us, John. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth,
be the change.
Like what you see here, WAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so overwhelmingly demonetized and censored by YouTube as the ADL comes in and flags all of our content as hate speech. Also, check our Bitcoin address in the description as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also find us at steemit.com at Josh Sigurdson, the future of social media, where you get paid in the upvote of your post in Steem, the cryptocurrency. And also find us at the Red Pill Expo, which we have a reference link for below in the description and the comments as well. Hosted by G. Edward Griffin, amazing speakers coming out to speak this year. Don't miss it. It's in Spokane, Washington, June 21st to 23rd. We hope to see you there. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.